We've already started to see some snow begin to move into areas of Maine. This is what the radar looks like right now. Seeing some fairly heavy snow throughout areas of southern New Hampshire and southern Maine. And within the next few hours, that snow will begin to overspread the state and give us a half-decent snowstorm for the snow lovers. But I wanted to point out actually how fast this system is moving. You can really see how quickly the precipitation moves up the eastern seaboard, which means we'll get a couple hours of heavy snow, but it's not going to linger very far as we get into the day tomorrow. But the National Weather Service has issued a winter storm warning for the areas here shaded in pink along the coastline. And then areas inland in that purple color is where we have a winter weather advisory in effect. So overall, when we were originally looking at this system, the European model was a bit on an island, and we're usually big fans of the European model here at New Center, Maine, but eventually it did end up caving to the rest of the models, giving us a stronger storm. But the good news here is that means if the two models that we're comparing have a lot of similarities, usually that means they're going to be fairly accurate. And if you see here, the rain-snow line is going to be very far away from the coast, so we don't have to worry about mixed precipitation, but usually that also means that the axis of heaviest snowfall is also over the water there as well. So one thing to consider in how much snow that we're going to get is our dew point temperatures. So our dew points right now are fairly close to our actual temperature. Most of them are in the upper teens to lower 20s. And usually the closer the dew point is to the actual temperature, the more moisture is in the atmosphere. So that can usually give us an idea of some of those snow totals. But something even more to consider here is how much water translates to snow in terms of our temperature. So for this example, let's say we have 1 inch of water and then we have 3 different temperatures here. Slightly above freezing, slightly below freezing, and then much colder, closer to 18 degrees. So when you have a lot of moisture and a lot more warmth, you end up with a lot of wet snow. So 1 inch of water may give you about 5 inches of snow. However, our temperatures for the duration of this system are going to be fairly cold, which means we end up with a lot of dry, fluffy snow. Now, I'm not saying here that we're going to get 20 inches of snow, but it usually means that a little bit of water goes a long way. So within the next few hours, we'll start to see the rest of that snow begin to overspread areas of the state. That rain-snow line will start to move farther offshore, and we'll end up with a period of moderate to heavy snow overnight. And then once it gets to around 10 p.m. to midnight, it will start to overspread kind of the rest of the state here. By the time we get to early Monday morning, this is at about 3 a.m., we're already starting to see some of that snow begin to break up in areas of New Hampshire and western Maine. However, in down east especially, still cranking, which means they'll likely get the highest snow totals in the state. But I mentioned that this system is moving pretty fast. And that means by the time we get to the morning commute, most of the snow will already be out of our area. So if the roads were treated well and they were plowed well, that means the morning commute, at least at this point, is starting to look all right. And then behind this system, actually, we end up with a lot of sunshine on Monday afternoon. However, things will start to get cold very quickly. I also wanted to talk a little bit about snowfall right here, because I mentioned that we're going to have that moderate to heavy snow, especially along the coastline around 10 p.m. tonight to around midnight. Could even see snowfall rates of about 1 inch per hour. So we're going to have a lot of heavy snow moving through with this system, the heavier, closer you are to the coastline. And it's also going to be windy. So if you have heavy snowfall rates, a lot of wind, and a lot of that kind of drier, fluffy snow could cause a lot of issues with blowing snow as we get overnight. So within the next few hours, we will start to see those wind gusts pick up. Could be seeing wind gusts out of the north about 25 to 35 miles per hour. So if you are going to be out tonight, just make sure you're careful, because that blowing snow can really lower visibility. So what are we looking at in terms of our snowfall totals? Obviously, I've mentioned along the coastline is where we're going to end up with the most snow. That contour here is 4 to 8 inches, though in areas of down east Maine, along the coast especially, could see some locally higher amounts. A bit farther inland and in the foothills, looking at about 2 to 4 inches, and then in the mountains, looking at about 1 to 2. In general, here, the farther you are away from the coastline, the less snow that you're going to see overall. And this should pretty much help us in terms of our snowfall deficit for the season. Now, it's not going to erase it entirely, but in Portland, we've only had 7 inches so far this winter, when we should be at about 27 inches. Bangor a little bit better. They've had 18 inches where they should be at 30, and then Caribou at 33 where they should be over 50 at this point. So it's not going to help us reverse that deficit entirely, but for the snow lovers, it's definitely better than nothing. And then behind this system, we end up with a bit of an Arctic blast, especially Monday through Wednesday. High temperatures there will be in the teens and maybe a few low 20s, but mostly in the teens. And our overnight low temperatures will be in the single digits to even below zero. So keep an eye on this storm with us as we continue to go later into tonight. We'll have more updates for you with Storm Center tonight at 11.